all the sports teams that exist. Certain countries have a big one or two, but we're proud to say our podcast is about the biggest team in the entire world.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! This is the World's Team Podcast. All about the world's team, the Dallas Cowboys, baby. We're here to redefine what it means to be a fan of the gridiron game. It's not just America's team anymore. Nope. We're taking that star-studded pride and spreading it across the globe. Each week, we dive into all things Cowboys. From game analysis that'll have you on the edge of your seat, to reactions and all the latest news. Whether it's free agency frenzy, draft day drama, or injury reports that make us want to hug our lucky jerseys a little tighter. We're bringing in fan groups from all over the place, from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. Everybody gets to share their 2 cents on America's favorite team.
And here we go!
America's team, Mexico's team, world's team, my Dallas Cowboys!
And now your hosts, Paul Stewart and Mike Poland.
What's up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome to another episode of the World's Team. Remember, it's not just America's team, it is the World's Team. I am your host, Paul Stewart, and I am joined, as always, Mr. Mike Poland. You can go and check him out on bloggingtheboys.com. But yes, Mike, the draft is almost here.
Yeah, only just a few days away. It's like, what, 4 or 5 days away now? It's funny, it just goes by so quick. We were talking about this, it was like 100 and something odd days. Now we're right here. It's right on our doorstep. This is the last show of the World's Team before the draft. And then we're into a week or a long weekend of no sleep.
Yes, and our hairlines continue to disintegrate in that process as well. So, but yes, the NFL draft is coming up very, very soon. But yes, Mike, before we do kind of break into any news and updates and stuff like that, we do have a wee announcement to do in the coming weeks regards to the World's Team. Some big news for us, and we're going to be really excited to announce that and share that with you. But obviously, we're keeping it under wraps as of right now. But we will announce the big news in the next coming weeks. And I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm really stoked to see what's on the horizon for the World's Team. I really am.
We're just like ducks on a pond, mate. Now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
On the surface, we look calm. We look calm and ready.
Absolutely. But yes, folks, we're here. We're back. We're here to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So let's get right into it, folks. So, and I'll be honest, Mike, a lot of the headlines is all to do with offensive line. It really is.
It's very offensive line heavy.
Yeah. So let's just start with the big one. Tyron Smith is officially retired. Retired as a Dallas Cowboy, signing a 1-day contract. He ends his career as a Cowboy. And yeah, like, give me your thoughts and opinions, man.
I mean, firstly, rightly so. Retiring as a Dallas Cowboy, that goes for sure. I mean, like, Tyron Smith, I've said it many, many times over. You know, he was the crown jewel of what was a revamped volume 2, if you like, of the Great Wall of Dallas. He was the beginning, if you like, of that. Just a shame we never managed to pin a medal to his chest.
Yeah, absolutely. No Super Bowl, no NFC Championship. The only thing he's ever won is the NFC East. But that's about
Pro Bowls and All Pros.
Well, yeah, I mean, for a guy coming into the NFL at the age of 20, he really did set the world on fire. We gave him that big 8-year contract, which people thought was crazy, but it was well worth it. But the only problem was with Tyron was keeping healthy from our end. Yeah. That was the problem. When Tyron was not on the field, we were into some problems, especially on the blind side.
Yeah, and it was always the same thing. It was always whenever, and like this is kind of like a bit of a downfall of it all. The negative, as you say, is the durability. Durability was always a massive concern with him, but it was also because of that you never really heard of him practicing heavy, because it was always keep him away, just wrap him up in bubble wrap. Let's just
Very
keep
much.
him away. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like sometimes that could be a detriment to the rest of your offense because your one of your main guys isn't always out there for both because he's either injured or they don't want him to get injured while in practice. So that's the only thing you can think of. Other than that, I mean, the dude, you say he's with Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor. I mean, all of those things, yeah, for definite. Because I mean, he was a force to be reckoned with. When people used to talk about best left tackles in the league, Tyron Smith was always the one. He was always like the first name that come out of everyone's mouth.
It's funny that you mentioned like the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt in my mind, like so Travis, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith will be like Hall of Famer ballots. Because when you really think about it, you've got offensive linemen like Joe Thomas is in the Hall of Fame.
I mean,
He
he's
never great offensive lineman.
Mm.
Like he was the best thing that ever happened to Cleveland. Let's be honest.
True.
But he's never won like a divisional championship. Never won an AFC championship or never been to Super Bowl. Also, he's only Pro Bowls. But Tyron and Zach overproceed Joe Thomas easily, 100%. So if Joe Thomas can be in the Hall of Fame, then like Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and yeah, you can put Travis Frederick in there as well.
Yeah, and you look at that offensive line in the mid 2010s, like 13, 14, 15, 16. You just look at all the guys who were in there, and those three really just elevated the whole line. You'd have like Doug Free on the right, and like people would say, oh, he's the weak link. Okay, Doug Free was maybe the lesser of the guys on that line, but he was still a starting right tackle on nearly every NFL team. It's just that the other guys were so good that the other three guys were up here and Doug Free was a little bit below. It just made him look worse than what he actually was.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the likes of those three guys elevated him, and also Ronald Lee as well before he departed to Denver Broncos. I think it was back in 2015, 2016.
Something like that. Yeah.
It was one of those years anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, but yeah, speaking about offensive line also, well, in fact, before we do move on actually to the other part, I mean, my final say I would say about Tyron Smith is like I get like the whole like my concern was I thought he would have retired earlier. Like the reason I say that because I am one of those people like when LVE retired, I'm glad he retired, not because like I didn't like the player. I loved him as a player, loved LVE, but I am more concerned about players' health more than anything.
Yeah.
Like
so like when you were watching Zach Martin last year, and then he gets injured, you're just like, oh,
yeah,
it's one season too many, like.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, speaking of, but yeah, kind of moving on now, and I'm pure stuttering away. I'm kind of, I'm a wee bit worried because my internet connection has been a little bit unstable. We had a couple of hiccups when we were trying to record this earlier. So, but yes, but as we were talking about Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick's also made the headlines. Actually, he's going to be at the NFL draft. And Mike, do you want to tell us what he's going to be doing at the NFL draft?
He's announcing both. Well, I say both. I mean, because there is a chance the Cowboys have more, depending on what they do in the first round. But at this stage, he is announcing both day 2 picks for the Dallas Cowboys, which I think is great.
Yeah, pick 44 and pick 76, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yep, we get to see the beard back in the public again, in the public eye. So I'm really thrilled to see that. And you always tend to see like it's always like a former Cowboy always doing the second round draft picks anyway. Obviously, we had Drew Pearson back in the past doing that famously absolutely shutting down Philadelphia, put them in their place. It was absolutely epic. So it was. But yes, also related to the offensive line, the actual Dallas Cowboys have actually signed on another offensive lineman.
So they've taken on Hakeem Adeniji. I know me and you have very different thoughts on
No, I wouldn't say different thoughts, like just different perceptions and what he might do within the roster. But
go for it.
Yeah. So obviously, I don't think he's going to be like a main roster guy. I think he's just going to be a stock filler, pretty much, camp body per se.
Yeah, definitely.
But when you look at what he's done in the past, he has made it to every team in the 53-man roster. Yeah, he's been cut by a few teams. Yes, I get that. But I mean, it's definitely something just to not shy away from. Like, you can never have too many offensive linemen. So, could they make there's always a chance there could be some person that people might forget about. Some people might have injuries and might actually, like, depending on the situation, depending on the coaching, depending on the scheme, it might work out in their favor. So for Hakeem, it could be like a new opportunity for him. Seize the moment with both hands. But I also do agree with you in the right, like, just based on how his careers went, he could be a potential early cut to this.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he's here for training camp. They're all during this portion of training, because they're in training right now. Because they're allowed to, because they had a new head coach, so the rules on when they're allowed to start training slightly changes. I think he's there to fill in mostly, and then I think he'll get waived or cut. My biggest problem was last year he didn't play. He was injured. He was put on injured reserve. Signed with Cleveland in the March, was on injured reserve by July. So. And then his time in Cincinnati, this is the big tell for me. And I mentioned this to you before, is that Cincinnati had an issue with their offensive line. Massive issue. Joe Burrow, I mean, we've seen it. He's panicking for his life back there a couple of years ago. Adeniji is in there. He does his part. I think he's in a game where for the first time in like God knows how many weeks, they finally play a game where they don't allow a sack. And like, that's a huge thing for Cincinnati. And at the end of the season, he gets injured during the season, but then at the end of the season, 2022 or 23, I forget which, they cut him, they waive him, he's done. And I just think that's the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line that have so many issues and have so many holes, and they're willing to waive this guy. It doesn't give you great confidence in where his level of like protection is at. So yeah, I kind of like I'm like meh about it. Just like, he's a guy. That's about it, really.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really much else to really kind of add on top of that. I mean, I still think like it's still an extra body offensive line. Like, we might see him get some rotation and whatever what that may be. Who knows? Like,
he may impress enough.
Yeah, Chris, let's just remember it's a whole new coaching staff we've got here. The offensive line coach from Kansas State, is it Connor Lively?
Lively, Lindsay, whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. This is really bad. I need to double check his name, make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. Cowboys O-line coach. We're doing it on the fly, ladies and gentlemen.
And somebody will already be shouting at us.
Connor Riley, not Lively. Connor Riley. Oh my God, I was close.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, Connor Riley, like, he obviously was the O-line coach for Kansas State and also the offensive coordinator. He's worked with Cooper Beebe before and also with Deuce Vaughn. So, but he has no relation to how he's worked with like Hakeem. Don't The only thing you could probably relate to is they were both in the same state. Like Conor Riley or offensive line coach was at Kansas State. Akeem was at Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. No relation at all. But interesting to see what pans out. As we were kind of talking about earlier, Mike, the NFL draft is almost upon us.
Yes.
How are we feeling?
Excited. I'm ready to go. If the draft is right now, I'm ready. I'm fully. I've got all my draft boards. I've got all my stats. Got all my figures. Got all my charts. I'm ready to rock.
Okay, just like top of the before we kind of dive into the mainstream media's takes on their mock drafts, etc. But where is your gut feeling going into this draft right now?
On who they take at 12?
Yeah.
Right. My gut feeling on pick 12 is I can't decipher who it will be, but I know it's going to be wide receiver. It's wide receiver pick 12 all the way right now. There's too many blinking, flashing lights at all of this right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, because if you said that 5 weeks ago, people would be laughing. But because of obviously what the acquisitions we've made, the priority of running back is still, even though it's still priority, but with the depth of this running back class, you could pick up one of those guys in the second or third round, and that will be your starter pretty much. And you're pretty much guaranteed a good run RB1 from that. So I think wide receiver, give Dak Prescott more weapons to utilize. Then again, it could be tight end. It could be that that could be the curveball. Could be Tyler Warren. It could be the curveball there.
If he got that far down, I don't think he gets that far down. But
well, put it this way: I've seen a few mock drafts where Tyler Warren goes down to 22.
He's an unbelievable talent, and like you think,
some people have Colston Loveland above Tyler Warren, which I don't get.
Yeah, that don't make no sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you put him in there instantly, so like he becomes your, because what the Cowboys need is a wide receiver too. We just don't have one since Brandon Cooks has gone. Taking wide receiver early, it's just the supply and demand issue. This wide receiver class is not as good as it has been in the past. So you look at this class and you go, right, there's only so many wide receiver twos or guys who will fit the wide receiver two. And then you're talking about wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Cowboys have plenty of them on their roster.
Yeah.
You take Tyler Warren, he becomes your wide receiver. He becomes your second target. I know we've got Jake Ferguson, and people will say that. Jake Ferguson, fine, I like, but he's not Tyler Warren.
Yeah. And let's remember, like, despite the injury, like, Ferguson didn't really have a great season last year.
0 touchdowns.
No touchdowns at all last year. We need more guys to get us in the end zone. So
Luke Schoonmaker had a much improved season, but he closed the gap on Jake Ferguson last year.
Oh, we'll finish that. That'll be very interesting to see how we go this year. Like, who is tight end number 1? Like, to me, it's still Jake Ferguson as of right now. But the way how Schoonmaker kind of performed in some situations, I thought, oh, okay, we actually do have something here from a player from Michigan. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like he had a fine season. He did not exactly what you wanted, but from a tight end too, you were like, oh wow, and he showed some things. Like Ferguson was out, we had to elevate everybody up. Schoonmaker filled the void, and he did it in some essence. He did it better than Ferguson.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so kind of looking at how the other mock drafts have been done. In fact, I did have them up earlier. Give me one moment.
We know that there's a lot of similarities with a lot of what people are picking. I know we found one, I think it was USA Today, who had a very interesting one that followed a theme and a process, which I liked.
Yeah, like just to kind of like so the mock drafts that we've seen was ESPN under Mel Kiper, the so-called NFL guru draft analyst.
Yeah. Who?
Yeah, exactly. um, we've had a couple from CBS Sports, a couple from NFL.com.
Yeah.
The growing consensus seems to be that the mainstream media seem to be very fixated on Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas.
I mean, like, look, it's one of those where I'm kind of like, are you wiped out a wide receiver? Yeah. Was like Amika Ibuka and Ted McMillan gone at this stage? Because if that's the case, then, and you really, really want wide receiver, then you take Matthew Golden. I'm kind of like, okay, I get it then. For me, he's 59th on my board, right? And I know that upsets some people, but it's for reason. I think he never had a 1,000-yard receiving season. And a lot of people, when they talk about Matthew Golden, they talk about how he's taken over games. He overtook 3 games all at the end of the season. And what people are really focusing so much on is the 4.29 he had at the combine, which is blazing fast. And he plays that fast on the field. It's not just track speed. He does play quick on the field, which is great. The Cowboys need that sort of speed on the outside for definite. That's what we're missing. I know we've got Kevontae Turpin, who's quick, but he's more a gadgety type guy than an outside guy. But I just think you look at the issues, the drop rate, the interception at contested catches is bad as well. And you just really, what people have done is focus on the combine and these 3 games he had at the end of the season. There's games in 2024 where he doesn't record a reception.
Yeah. I mean,
This is a first round wide receiver, Paul. We're talking about a top 12 pick. I want guys who are highly productive at that stage.
Yeah, because the comparison I was doing is just looking at face value, where statistically on face value, he averages better than the number one. I know, but the point I'm trying to make, like he's got more touchdowns than Ted McMillan. He's got more average per catch, less snaps. But to your point, Mike, it's like there's been games where he's absolutely lit it up. And there's been games where he's been non-existent. So there's a level of inconsistency there.
Yeah, and the whole thing of he hasn't turned up. He hasn't turned up until the back half of 2024. And mostly the playoffs. And you're kind of like looking at that going, oh, really? Is that what we're basing all this on? And so I find it sketchy. Just all I want is I'm not saying Golden is a bad pick. I'm not even saying that he's not necessarily a first-round pick, but I'm just like saying, depending on what your options are at pick 12, I want my pick 12 right now. I don't want it to be a gamble or that there are certain traits that you like. It needs to be a slam dunk pick. You need to be banging your fist on that table when that comes in and going, yes. For me, Golden at 12, I'm like, okay. I'm not excited by it. I want to be excited by it. I want my pick 12 to be like, yes. I don't want to be sitting here in pick 12 and going, okay.
Yep. So I agree, man.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, so looking at other mock drafts as well, there has been a really good one in terms of yourself, Mike. Your guy, Walter Nolan, was one of the names that was popped up on one. I think that was on USA Today.
Yeah. I think Walter Nolan at pick 12 is a little bit rich. You think all the other talent you're going to pass off just for Walter. Don't get me wrong. Walter Nolan, an absolute talent, a beast at what he does. Fantastic. Comes into Dallas, fits everything that they need. I just think that I want to pick Nolan in the first round, I want to trade back. But I don't want to trade. I want to trade out of the teens. So I want to trade into the 20s. So I get a lot of value. I'm going to get high value back. Plus, then in the 20s, Nolan makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm trying to remember what the reasons were. It's because of what, like I said, with DeMarcus Lawrence going and some other players from free agency. And I'm trying to remember this word for word because I did have the windows up on my screen here of the description of it. But basically, it's somewhere to complement also the Gazua, give him that extra body in the middle and help out Micah Parsons as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get the reasoning behind it. I wouldn't be thrilled about it, like
No.
if, like especially at 12, like
Mhm.
like you're saying, if we were to trade back
Mhm.
and the wide receivers that we were kind of interested in are no longer there available. But then again, if Hampton's still there, if we traded far back,
I mean,
oh
yeah, and that's the other side of it. You trade back, you take Nolan, you are going to miss maybe Hampton, maybe for argument's sake. Let's say we trade back and he's gone, right? He
yeah,
went,
yeah,
and they went, oh, okay, and then they went Nolan. I'd be like, totally understand it, totally get it.
that makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense in that part.
yeah, definitely.
And obviously, finally, and I think this one came from one of the NFL.com full mock drafts, is that Ted McMillan was one of the names that popped up. So,
Yeah.
and me and you, mate, we're pretty happy with that idea if it's
Oh
Ted
yeah.
McMillan.
Yeah, Tech McMillan. See, now going back to the segment, like we're going, yes, at 12, Tech McMillan is a yes. The dude, even now, I'll go, I'm still watching tape, watching games. Every now and then I'll come across and I'd be like, oh, I'm back here. I'm back at ours. But you can't help but just watch Tech. I watched one and he makes just this jumping, leaping catch just outside the end zone, contorts his body around, catches the ball around the defender and comes down. It's an impossible catch, is what he does. And somehow he does it and then comes down with it, moves backward into the end zone and scores. You're just like, man. And here's the thing, right, Paul? This is what I want from my wide receiver. And I get it from maybe only 3 guys this year. Is last year we lost CeeDee Lamb to injury at the back half of the season. Okay, injuries played him all last year. It was bad for him, right? So we ended up having this mismatch of wide receivers to try and be the lead receiver and your wide receiver too, because Brandon Cooks was in and out as well, if you remember. But like, what I want is, let's say for argument's sake, this season now, CeeDee Lamb, we lose him for a game or 2, maybe a half of, we lose him in the third and fourth quarter of a game. I need a wide receiver to step up. I think a guy like Ted McMillan, I feel confident. I'm like, I've got the confidence in him of like, okay, you're our lead receiver now. You're our main guy. I have confidence in that. See a guy like Golden, I don't have that confidence in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get that, man. I mean, Ted is definitely one of those guys that you just cannot ignore. If he's there when your pick is up, you take him. Like, obviously, the other teams beforehand have more desperate needs than other than wide receiver, but for the likes of in our situation, if Ted's there, you've got to take him.
Definitely.
Like, same could be said for Genty if he was to fall at 12.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be the main consensus. Like, it's like he's there. He's one of the top ranked players in the draft. You got to take him as a blue chip player. So, like, don't get me wrong. I still kind of prefer certain players later on in the draft. That's just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I might not necessarily be right, but we all do have our preferences. But in terms of the majority of all the draft analysts, they all tend to think that Genty is reason why he is the number 1 running back in this year's draft class.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I can make you really roll your eyes and say that there's other guys who can fall down there, like Sanders. There was a chance Sanders drop, and he's there. And imagine the social media and the chat. We're going to be live at the time.
I am going to stop you right there. I do not want to talk about Shadur Sanders. Just no, Mike. I'm sorry.
It's just a chance.
No, I am not accepting it. Moving on. We're not talking. I'm sorry. Like, I will put you on timeout if you mention him again. I'm sorry.
No,
I am not, like, for any Cowboys fan thinking Shadur Sanders, oh, he's there to we got to take him. No, you're out of your goddamn mind. I'm sorry. We've got our quarterback. We've got our new backup quarterback. We're good. We're building the team around that to build them new offensive weapons. What on earth are we going to do with a brand new quarterback? Is he going to like throw magic fairy dust and actually win us a Super Bowl? No, that's not what's going to happen. Enough. Sorry. I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Shedeur Sanders as a player, but I don't want the drama in Dallas.
The circus.
And what's been happening right now in Dallas has been drama off the scenes with likes of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm just like, I thought we were trying to get away from this, and it still seems to be crawling back. But it seems things have started to quiet down. Jerry's actually been less quiet on the media, which is great. But when you try and bring in like a Shedeur into the building, it's just going to be media chaos, and that's the last thing we need for a brand new head coach, a brand new coaching staff, a whole new offensive scheme. I'm like, is this really going to make us win and get further to reach the Super Bowl? Absolutely not.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, PFF have done a mock draft. Their first round and second round pick for the Dallas Cowboys. Number 1, Luther Burden. Totally fine with that.
That one I really like. I like Luther Burden. I really do like him.
I put it on Twitter this week. I find it crazy that and I think a lot of it's media driven, is that he's fallen down mock drafts and overall rankings, tumbled down them for a reason. I don't get the reasons why they talk about the reasons. The reasons make no sense to me. They make no sense.
Mike, I will tell you the reason right here, right now. It's because he didn't have Brady Cook thrown to him.
I get it. They talk about his 2024 season. And I just say, look, you need to go and look at the reasons.
Yeah, the quarterback could barely throw the bloody ball.
Yeah.
Like,
so what's this quarterback?
Yeah, backup quarterback. So he's trying to make the best of a bad situation. Remember when we had Cooper Rush throwing to CeeDee Lamb? It's pretty much that same scenario.
Yeah. No, it is. You've got to look at the reasons why there was such a disparity between his previous years and last season. He's still the same player. I still think last season, under the circumstances, he did really well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and this is why I keep saying about face value, people are looking at face value way too much, looking at the stats and not realizing, oh, wait, why is the stats so low?
There's a bigger picture, yeah.
There's a bigger picture as well. The reason for that is because he's playing with a backup quarterback. That's the secret.
In the second round, mind you, in the PFF one, me and you talked about him early in the draft process, like a couple of months ago, is Cam Scatterbuilt from Arizona State.
Yeah, that one's actually quite an interesting one. And that, I don't think Cam's been talked about enough. I would love the idea of Cam Scatterbuilt in Dallas, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because I think, well, it's the versatility for sure. But from what Brian Schottenheimer said on day one, I'm going back to what he said, what he's looking to do. He wants running backs to do more than just rushing, pretty much. Catching the ball, pass protection. Scatterbuilt can do that. Even though he's not officially a 30-day visit, I don't think he is. No, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas take him based on they really love what they see from him, from what he did with pretty much a subpar level offensive line and still made it really work. Very difficult to take down, especially. We need that type of running back. You've got those other guys like Henderson and Judkins. I would love to have also.
But I mean, what I like with PFF is you look at what they've done. So they go Luther Burden to begin with, yeah. You want to talk about a pro comp for Luther Burden? It's CeeDee Lamb, right? It is. They're exactly the same. Short route, just dump it off, get him the ball, and just let him rip. Cam Scatterbuilt, here's an interesting one. He had 104 missed tackles last season, right, Paul? Mm-hmm. Had 1,716 rushing yards. 1,214 of those were after contact.
Jeez.
Yeah. So the dude can just power through things. So you talk about Luther Burden, and you say you've got this guy who's the yak guy. He's going to get you yards after contact. Then you go and pick up Cam Scatterbuilt with the next. the theme continues.
Mm-hmm.
Physical football. That's what I like, Paul.
Smash mouth football.
There you go. And he's got the versatility. I mean, like you say, he can catch the ball. I mean, even through a passing touchdown last year. So there's versatility through the roof.
Well, there you go. Who knows? We could do the Dallas special in the future.
Yeah, start going for the Wildcat.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Who knows what we're about to expect this season? It's just going to be a completely different Dallas Cowboys from what we're used to.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like,
and I mean,
and in a way though, Mike, it excites me. It's different. We're not going into the same season, kind of like expect. Like, don't get me wrong, we had a bit of success under Mike McCarthy, 12-5 consecutive seasons, but with that, there has been times where you like the bad play calling, the this and this, the this and that. So hopefully things can change. And don't get me wrong, like it's going to be really hard to judge Brian Schottenheimer as of right now because we haven't seen him being the head coach as of yet, being on the field, making the calls. We can't make any true assessment as of yet. So until then, we're just going to have to write it out and see how well we do in the draft and see how we do in undrafted free agents and rest of free agency to build this roster up. And we can make some assumptions during training camp as we move on from now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, until we keep hearing lots of good things about Shotty, the pedigree's there. He comes from a lineage of coaching. So he's got that going for him. He's already knows Dallas. He knows the team already. So he's ahead of the curve with the other coaches who are coming in fresh-faced into the building. Until we see it, until we see the draft, we kind of see a theme. If we see a theme coming up, that will be a big tell for us on what this team is going to look like in 2025. I need to see the theme. I need to see, like, in their sequencing, their draft sequencing, how all of this is going, what the flow is on both offense and defense. And here's the thing, Paul, as you mentioned at the start of the show, we're going to be doing the live shows. And then what we'll do on the World's team is we'll do a review each day. So that's when you'll hear from us next, is after each day of the draft.
Yeah. That's if we're still alive, mind you.
No. I remember last year on day 3, you were struggling.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely struggling, dude.
I was doing my best, talking loudly to try and keep you awake. You're just in the head, going further and further down.
Just so everyone knows, this was on the UK Cowboys fans podcast. We were doing the live stream, which we're going to be doing again this year as of this weekend and during the draft coverage. But yeah, day 3 completely killed me, dude. It completely did.
Yeah,
so
you were gone.
But yeah, folks.
Up on you. But yeah, go on, close it out, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a somewhat short episode this week because we're kind of more or less burned the bridges. We've talked about enough about the NFL draft. We just want it here now and then. And yeah, let's just bring it on. Let's get our draft picks. Let's rebuild this Cowboys roster and move forward. But before we do go, right, please tell everyone where everyone can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Kenford Cowboy. That's Kenford with a K, Cowboy with a K. What about you, Mr. P?
You can follow me at IMP But yes, folks, be sure to come back here after the NFL draft is concluded. We will be doing our review, and obviously depending on how we are, we might do it right after the first round, right after the second round. We just haven't decided yet, but we will. But it won't be directly out Saturday, so just a pure heads up, folks. All right. But yeah, folks, we will catch you guys later on. And as always, here at the World's Team, it's not just America's team. It's the World's Team. See you guys next time. Have a good one, folks.
You've been listening to the World's Team Podcast. There's no other team like it in the world. Nothing more electrifying than the Dallas Cowboys. And we're here to prove it. We bring in fan groups from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. We're everywhere, baby. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at the.worlds.team, on Twitter at _worlds_team, and on YouTube at the Worlds Team. How about them Cowboys?
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
See you next time.